Hey, I'm here today with week 21 of my weekly series Bubble Watch. That's where we go into the MLS system and my back end of my account to see if this Jacksonville Metro, North Florida real estate bubble is about to burst. Hey, we cover everything here from the sold items to the active listings, the pendings. We look at the withdrawals, we look at new construction, look at foreclosures. We get all these numbers, put them together and put them in a chart for you to look, and we compare with the previous weeks all the way from week 1. 21 weeks we've been doing this. Now, last week was a little bit off because we had that hurricane coming through, but we're back at it this week. Hey, and we're going to get to all this in 3. Hi, my name's Tom Kerr and I'm the host of Bubble Watch. And if you're new to this channel and you like what you see here, then just subscribe and hit notifications so you can be notified when we get new videos posted. Hey, you know what? I'm just a regular guy up here who happens to be a real estate agent here in North Florida. And we go back into my MLS system, which is the multiple listing services, into my account, and I look at the numbers real time. Not everyone likes these numbers they're going to see, but these are the numbers that are showing, and we try to see if there's that pattern when we can catch when that bubble's going to burst. Of course, I give a little bit of my opinion along the way too. Hey, let's get right to it. We're going to go look at those active listings. Okay, what we do is we look at what's going to be active, what's active right now, and the other numbers we go 1 week back. So what's active here in the Northeast Florida MLS? We've got 6,272. Now we look at what was sold 7 days back. In the last 7 days, we sold 403. Next we look at contingent taking backup. Contingent taking backup is 657. Now for those of you that are new to this channel, and my Bubble Watch, that contingent taking backup, those are under contract and they have a contingencies. Usually they're like home inspections, but they can be appraisals or they can be financing contingencies. So after those contingencies pass, then they go into pending status. So let's take a look at the pendings. Those that went pending in the last 7 days, 508. The withdrawn, 451. Expired listings, 227. Now those withdrawn and expired, what they are the expired ones, they've completely gotten out of the contract expired or they got out. So the home's not up for sale in the MLS system. Withdrawn means the people withdrew it, but it's still listed by a realtor, okay? So, but you can't show the house. And a lot of times that may be for people who are working on the house and things happen. Now let's take a look at those new construction numbers for sold and how many of them are active. Okay, new construction sold last 7 days, 54. And the active new construction, 1,670. Now these new construction numbers are all part of the regular active and sold numbers that I just showed you. I just show how much of those total active and solds are on the new construction side, and that's what these numbers are. Now let's take a look at those foreclosures. Okay, these are going to be active foreclosures right now. They're part of the actives, and the amount that are in foreclosure is 17. And then we're going to also look at, under this foreclosure umbrella, we do a couple other things. We also do pre-foreclosures, which right now, that's 9. And then we do short sales, and that's 5. Okay, now let's take a look at the mortgage rates. Okay, now all those numbers I just showed you, we're going to put them in a chart and compare them with the last week's and the previous weeks for you. But now let's go look at those mortgage rates and see what they did this last week. Well, I think this headline may give us a hint. No, mortgage rates aren't lower this week. They're actually back over 7%. All right, let's take a look and see what they are. And we're on the site Mortgage News Daily. And we're going to look at the 30-year rates. And this here is their compilation for the averages. And as you can see, there we started off last week. We left off actually last week, 6.82. We've got a couple of up arrows and a couple of downs. The big up arrow is the last one, and that jumped us, as you can see. We ended today there at 7.04. Now, I started, showing FHA and VA because those rates are sometimes a little bit lower. Generally they are. And the FHA, folks can get in with 3.5% down. VA, 0 down. And VA actually gives a better rate than these rates here. Now this is conventional that I just showed you. Now conventional, you can still get in with a lot less down. You don't have to pay 20% down. Now the FHA, you got that private mortgage insurance that stays with the loan, or with the conventional, it does go away once you get to that 80-20 split. All right, let's take a look and see what FHA and VA were. Okay, the 30-year FHA, as you can see, it is a little bit lower. It didn't top that 7%, so it stayed well in those sixes. And let's look at that VA. And the VA is the same thing. It pretty much followed along with that FHA. Okay, now let's look at that price per square foot. Okay, and we want to see, it was on that uphill climb, leveled off. Now it started going down, and it kind of leveled off a little bit. I think it was at the 199 square foot. Let's see what it is now. Well, they didn't update it. Let's see if we refresh the screen, if maybe it'll... Hold on, let's see. No. They didn't update it. 199. That's from last week's 199. So we can probably assume that it's pretty close to that, but I wanted to see if it was going down, but we're going to stay with this. I'm not going to go to a different chart because, we've been staying with this chart, so it kind of keeps some consistency, and we'll see where we're going. I still see a lot of headlines. I see a lot of these guys doing these YouTube videos, these other realtors and all, saying the market's crashed. It's crashed. It's crashing. And, so far I haven't seen it. And I want to show you something, a headline and an article from somebody that kind of goes along with what I'm saying. Okay, this site called Real Wealth, okay, the person that's one of the founders of it is this lady, Kathy Fetke, it looks like is how you pronounce the last name. And it says in there that her housing market predictions since 2005 have been correct every year. All right, so I found that interesting. So I decided, let's see what she has to say. So I scrolled down to the end. We don't want to read all this. But to give you some pointers here. Okay, what she's saying, her predictions for the rest of this year here. Now, some of these were done probably a little bit before, but number one, the unemployment rate will stay low. Job openings will continue to be over 10 million. Inflation will remain higher. We agree with that. Reserve will try to fight by raising the rates at least 3 times, which they're doing. Mortgage rates will be over 6, which they are. Home prices will continue to climb, but at a slower pace. Let's just skip on down here. Number 12, the number of renters and rental prices will rise. The number of renters will rise. Yes, because what's happening is people that were going to go into a home and find they can't, are going to end up renting. There's a lot of people, maybe first-time home buyers, and people are just moving out and stuff like that were staying with relatives hoping that they would be able to buy something. Last year they couldn't because they were competing with all these iBuyers that were, spending a lot of cash on stuff. So, yeah, I see that, and we've seen these rental prices rise. But what's interesting was, I think this was on ABC News. They said here that U.S. rent prices are finally showing signs of cooling down. Okay, well, cooling down and dropping, may not be the same thing. They said housing accounts for about 1/3 of the inflation, and it's telling here that, of course, the annual rate 8.3. Well, they're not shopping the same place I am because it's above 8.3 where I go. But in any case, the inflation's been the worst it's been in over 40 years. And it shows that hourly average earnings only rose 5.2. So that's showing that there definitely is this problem, this affordability thing, because of the inflation, and then the price of the homes have still gone up. And man, I'm telling you, I was showing some houses this last week. A lot of them are still up there. A lot of houses, 400, 500,000, or more, So, but check out this other article. Now, this here was from Fox Business, and they're showing there the national average for rent. Now, this was back September. Look at that, a one bedroom, $1,721, a two bedroom, $2,000. It's just crazy, It's making it harder and harder for folks to get something. But I'll tell you something else I've been watching is they're talking about this millennial generation, and they're the ones that are coming out, and they're a bigger group than the baby boomers now, and they're the ones that are going to be buying a lot. The first-time home buyers that got the families and stuff, they're in that age group that some of them may have advanced a little bit in their career, so they have some money to go out and do something. So we got to watch that, because there's still a housing shortage, okay? And so, this is still a problem. And another big problem is insurance, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But right now, I want to take all these numbers and then put them into those charts for us to look at. Okay, what we've got here is all those numbers I gave you on where I was showing the active, sold, contingent, taken back up, pending, withdrawn, expired, new homes sold, and new homes active. And here's how it all played out. You see the active, 6272, sold, 403, 657 for contingent, pending, 508, withdrawn, 451, expired, 227, new homes sold, 54, and new homes active, 1670. All right, last week I really didn't, if you saw Bubble Watch 20, you saw it was the storm was through, and I had a lot of stuff going on. So I really didn't get into the numbers more on the trend, what was going on, but I definitely noticed a trend here that I want to talk about. On top of everything, my tree fell on my car and smashed it, so I had to deal with all that crap last week too. So look at these numbers here on the actives. This was interesting. Okay, when we look all the way back, and I'm going to go back here, you can see to week 1, and I'll hold it just for a second so y'all can freeze the screen if you want. It's just too much information to keep all at once. But if you've noticed all along, since May, the amount of actives have been increasing. Last week, we had a drop, okay? It dropped. And now look at this week, more of a drop. Now this is more of a dramatic drop, okay? And then look at the solds. Okay, the solds, they fluctuated all through this whole thing, and now they've settled down to, it was 403. It still wasn't the lowest, okay, that we had, but look at the contingent taking back up. Those are under contract, so that's less. The pending is less. Now the withdrawals really shot up, and expireds jumped, and then the new homes sold also dropped, although the new homes active went up, okay? Now remember I had said too, we got to start watching these pendings, okay? Here as you look, like a couple weeks back, because these pendings, things can be pending for a while, generally things sell 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks. But sometimes something can be pending for a little bit, a long time, because of some problems, either with a title, with this, or the financing. So we look at those pendings and see from a few weeks back and see how they affected things. And take a look. And you look and you saw, okay, as these pendings here were dropping, then our sales have dropped. We look at that. So this is something to definitely watch, okay? Right now, we've got to watch this and see what happens. And especially like those new construction, they jumped up a couple and then they went down, and now the actives are definitely a lot more now. They're creeping up. Now, what could be causing more going active? Well, I'll tell you what, take a look at this. We talked about this before. Here, this was from Fox News. Now, this was here, like, I think the end of last month or so. And highest home contract cancellation rates. Jacksonville, 26.1. Okay, Orlando and Florida, Orlando and Fort Lauderdale come in down there too. Okay, so I was saying I think it might even be closer to 30%. So are those cancellations coming from new construction? I don't know. I haven't deciphered it that much versus the resales. But when you have a cancellation this high, well, then your actives, they're going back into the active pool, are going up. So again, that's something else we've got to watch. All right, now let's take these numbers. Okay, I take all the sold information and I put it into charts to find out how many sold below list, at list, above list, how many sold above 500, and we do the same for the new construction. Okay, here we are with that list, the under, at, and above, and the 500K and above. All right. The ones that sold for 500K and above in week 21 here, we're at 32%. The ones that sold under list, 68%. At list, 16%. And above list, 16%. I think it's interesting to note that now, what was that number there for the 500K and above, 32%. If you see, let's go all the way back here now when we started it. There we started on week 7 is when we started tracking that, and that is the highest. Okay, and then of course at lists, and then the others, above and below are pretty close to what they were. So is it that because the homes have gotten so much, the interest rates are up, that the folks that can buy these homes above 500,000, and that includes, there's a bunch that are 800,000, 900 million plus, that the interest rates don't affect them as much as maybe some other folks, and maybe that's why we're seeing this trend going up, because those are the folks that can be in the market now, and it doesn't affect them as much. I mean, they still watch their bottom line, I'm sure, but it doesn't create the same pain though for someone that's trying to get like a $300,000 house or less right now. All right, let's look at the new construction, how that figured out. Okay, new construction, we were at 20% that sold under list, 36% that sold above list, and homes at list, 36%, and above list, 44%. Okay, that below list number there, okay, it definitely went up. Okay, so and again with new construction, we really don't know the incentives they got and they give, and believe me, they're giving some incentives now to sell the house. But a lot of these houses, though, new construction, they may be going below list, which this shows for houses that are already built, because there's a bunch of them there that are already built and they're ready to go. You can move right in a new construction home. And so, that's great, So let's take a look at those foreclosure numbers. Okay, here we look at the foreclosure numbers for week 21, compare them with the others. Foreclosures are at 17, so we're seeing that ticking up each week there. It's been going up lately. Pre-foreclosures at 9, dropped a little bit. Short sales at 5, which has remained about the same. So the total in all 31, which is pretty close to the same. Now, if you look at last week, the foreclosures there were 14, and this week it's 17. That total 31 out of everything, that's active, and these are in the active category, still is like around, 0.5% of all, and that's still low because normal would be like maybe 1.5%, sometimes even 2%. But still, want to say 1.5%, and we're still well below that. But that difference between those two, that's like a 22% increase. So I'm still seeing people saying that the foreclosures are rising, all that. Well, you know what? I could make a headline saying, make a thumbnail there before a video says foreclosures up 22%. But look at what they are. Okay, something I wanted to say about this new construction I want to go back on. It's going to be interesting to see how they play out. I just did a video, and if you haven't seen it, you need to watch this. It's the one I just did before this one that you're watching now, Bubble Watch. And it pretty much has to do with the insurance industry. And then here's the thumbnail for it. And so when you see this on my YouTube channel, you'll know that's the video to watch. And I'm not going to go into it all here because I went into it there, but insurance is going to be a big problem. A lot of houses are going to be uninsurable, okay? And in that video, I go over it. But new construction doesn't have that problem. So, is that going to help new construction numbers? I don't know. We'll see. But, you know, you get a new construction, you don't have to worry about insurance. You get some of these resales, you may have to because of the repairs and stuff, and they don't meet their inspections. But watch that video and you'll see. All right, now, for the one that some people love and some people hate, it's the house of the week. All right? So I pick a house, and I picked one here, and this one I believe sold for $20,000 below the list price. Okay, so remember, we see all those headlines. Everything's dropping. People aren't getting what they're listed and all that. Well, maybe they listed it for too much, you know, or whatever. But let's see where that person bought the house. When they sold it, what the deal? Did they make anything, or did they really lose? Because those headlines make it seem like everyone that the prices are cratering, they're dropping. You know, it's a big fire sale. The crash is here, and you know, sellers are losing money. Well, let's see. That's what my point is. Let's check this one out. Okay, this particular house, and here we're on the public records for Jacksonville. So it was in Jacksonville area. They bought it. Now this was a new house, and you can see that because of, you know, how the property was bought here by the developer. But they bought it in February 21st of 2020, so 2.5 years ago. They paid $203,500 for that house. Okay, keep that in mind. Now let's go look at the MLS. Okay, here it was only on the market 14 days, listed for $345,000, sold for $325,000. So it was $20,000 below list. So it sold for $325,000, and they bought it for $203,500. I mean, they bought it, you know, just before all this COVID stuff happened, before everything. I mean, really right on the edge. They bought it at perfect timing, but they made all that money, and you know, even though it was sold at a loss of $20,000. So that's the headline: sold at loss of $20,000. That's what I'm saying. You can't go by all these headlines when they showing you all these numbers that everything's going under list, and all that the market's crashing. No, it's not. It's like getting more normal. Now, those interest rates are going to be a little bit more above normal. So, but you know what? It's like, you know, like I said, I get calls from a lot of people now, more than ever, you know, just asking information about real estate and the market in general, you know, but I get calls too from people wanting to buy or sell. So, you know, I mean, if that's what you want to do, you know, and you're here in the North Florida area, then just get in touch with me in text, phone, or email. But I'm going to every week give you the numbers as I show them, and then let you decide whether it's time to buy or time to sell.